should have got set up before I pressed the go live button, should I? Okay. Here we go. This me doing my autopilot. If you've ever seen airplane, you know what I mean. Just a lovely Sunday morning in Yorkshire. The sun's shining, spring, everything's growing crazy, and it's a nice thing. And I've just been for a walk with my youngest son, the sculptor, and we were discussing, obviously, art. And I think what triggered it was yesterday. When anybody asked me to help them, I always ask them to send me the starts, the way that they begin. And I was talking about how I can see in their marks what kind of issues they've got, you know, whether it's too tight expectations, even down to possibly lack of skill. But I always think that skill is just something that happens as a consequence. So we were just talking about how I can see them in their marks. So their beginning marks are always. So when I say I do this, and I'm just trying to find everything. It's a beardy old man, by the way. So it's it's pretty bog standard subject and safe subject, shall we say? And I've said this before about how charcoal artists resort to these, but I'd want them to send me that because I can see within that what kind of what stage they're at, if you like. The fact that I'm not trying to illustrate anything, but you can still see the face, you can still see where everything is, and but I've done it in such a way that it's not deliberate, it's not contrived, it's not me trying to find the edge of the face like that, which is often what happens. And this is a consequence. You watch any of these professional videos and you'll see people with their pencils sharpened to a point where there is no wood on it, and they're doing this sort of thing, you know what I mean? And that's the problem with it. Or even worse, which I've just seen somebody now, they're doing a kind of a dodgy kind of Loomis thing. And they're so pleased that every mark, watch what I'm going to do now, bang, boom, wow. It just, and it just gets into people's heads and they all get confused by all this. And it's like, it's the same kind of conditioning that we have as kids, it's the same, this is how it's done, this is how you should do it, And what, from my point of view, is that this very simple beginnings is the moment at which you put it into drive, if you know what I mean. You put your creativity into drive, and if it's if you did that in a car, and then all of a sudden the thing's juddering along, they think there's something wrong. It has to go into drive, and off you go. And that's really what people need to connect with. But the problem is, the reason why it judders and off you go is because I've seen too many of these guys doing this. Jiggy, 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 trying to find the end of the line, and they have some kind of expectation, because these people who can do that, like that, can make some amazing portraits. But it's a technical skill which they've acquired over thousands of hours. So there's the problem. Then the second part of that is, this is how they did it. Obviously they're good. This is how they did it. And then you see what they do, and it's amazing. And all of a sudden, there's another obstacle, because I'm never going to be able to do it that good. You got this perception, expectation. But so all of that manifests in this very first initial burst as you put it into drive, and that's really, at that very moment, I can see straight away what the problems are, and and that's easy. The hard bit is fixing it. The hard bit is fixing it, because it's not, as we've been talking this morning, it's not a doing thing. I mean, it is a doing thing that fixes it, but ultimately it's a preparation, the mind preparation thing. So you have to be in a state where, I don't care what it's going to look like. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if someone else likes it. I don't care in that. What I care about is me expressing my creativity. That's what I want. That's what I really want. This is me connecting and expressing. And whether it's a landscape or a face or whatever it is, that's where you want to be. And that's when you'll get the results that you deserve, and you'll find your true self when you're in that position. But getting into that place is very difficult. Getting rid of all the hang-ups that are a consequence of the bad conditioning that's happened to all of us, all our lives, and still does. It still does when the Royal Academy and this, that, and the other start putting portraits up and saying, right, these are great, yours are crap, but these are great, and that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you're thinking, no. That's one person's vision, if you like, or creative expression. This is my creative expression, and I'm going to stick with it, regardless. It's a bit like I said yesterday. I said about being true self, and that, as I said, it's very difficult to break out of those overriding conditioning messages, and that, as I said, is the hard bit. So people, I can say, yeah. I mean, I would never tell someone, well, if you hold the pencil like that, if you make these marks in this direction, and this guy this morning, I've got the nose in the right direction. Well, it's because you're bloody useless. It's because if for instance, if you're just talking about technical stuff, now technical stuff is easy. You just need to know that it's easy, right? And then go for it. But if you're talking about technical stuff, you're talking about alignments, right? You're looking where the tip of the nose is in terms of where the eye is. All of a sudden you've got a distance there from there to there. All of a sudden you've got 2 points that determine the angle of the nose. It's easy. It doesn't take some geometry to work it out. It's just being able to look better, see better. And that's it. And but as I said, you get embedded within that, and all of a sudden it becomes about that, and then that's another thing. But if I'm going to help anybody, it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to talk about. I spoke to somebody the other day who might be interested in sort of a long-term course, and they're perfect because they have a kind of their job works with. In a sphere where they understand about the psychology of things, and so they're perfect for the kind of thing I'm talking about, and which seems crazy because it's not. Why is psychology involved in this sort of thing? You might ask, but it is. It really is. That your if nothing else, your physiology probably affects the way you do something, but to some degree, you're tired or you're hungry or whatever, but more than that, it all starts in the head, and that addressing those issues for a lot of people is really difficult. It's a lot easier to learn to do Loomis or other geometry or anatomy. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to fix your mind. So that's what a lot of people do, because at the end of the day, all they want to do is make copies of faces. So that's fine. I mean, that's it. But if someone genuinely wants me to help them, then I ain't going to start getting all technical and saying you should do this, you should do that, and you should drag the pencil or the charcoal in a certain direction. It's kind of irrelevant, that bit. We'll get to that bit. How do you get things in the right place, sort of thing. We'll get to all of that once we've fixed the mind. But as I said, it's a common thing. This is the reason I'm supposed to be doing a new course. I've been banging on about it forever, and the reason I can't get to it is because I'm having problems resolving the way that I would deal with somebody's psychological issues in terms of doing this. How do you address that? And it's not it's not like a science thing. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I know what having the right mindset can do. But like I say, how do you train for that? And most people will come along and just want to draw. I just want to learn to draw. Well, there's loads of courses and loads of teachers, and then just pick one. Pick one that does it in the style you want to work in, and then just emulate their style. That's easy. But if you want to do more than just make copies of faces, then that's a different thing. That's where the art lives. Illustration lives in the other bit, but art is in the bit where it's difficult terrain, shall we say, and the bit where art really lives. Not difficult really, but it's difficult because we're not conditioned. We're not brought up to think of art in that particular way. So it's a little bit of a mind game to actually work out. What I'm going to do is with this individual I think is perfect for exploring my approach, if you like. I'm going to do a test, use her as a kind of a lab rat to see whether or not there is a way to unlock all this. And hopefully it'll be, it will be practical stuff, because the practical stuff is inevitable, inevitably the place where we end up. But getting there is I want to start the journey properly, and that's really what I want to sort of isolate if I can, if there's a way to do it. I don't know, get into the psychology of art, and I don't mean the psychology in terms of the mental health thing, because that's another area which is I try not to go near that, because I think that sort of demeans art in a way. I know it's powerful and everything else, but art's much more than relaxation, which is what I heard somebody talk about it. And I like to relax by making art. Sometimes I'm not relaxed at all when I'm making art. Yeah, it's a bit of a quandary, I'll say. But anyway, so a bit of a ramble. As I said, we went for the walk, and it always sort of triggers us. So I think this is the thing: we're living in a house full of artists. You sort of talk about art all the time. And if we were talking to Harrison now, that's his name, he'd blow you away with the depth of his understanding, but also his determination to, recognize the singularity of art. The fact that his response to the world is singular, and I love all that. I don't know where he gets all that from, but I do think that it's a singular. It has to be a singular response. It has to be your response, and recognizing that is really important, because it's the foundation of your truth. So, and your art is your truth. So that's really where you want to be coming from, not from a point of view of someone else's truth, which is do it like this, drag it like this, watch me when I do this with a hand, wow, bang, boom, all that kind of stuff. And I know there's a market for that. People want that. Just don't think that that's the only way. please, there's some of us out here that just actually get what's happening. It's not just a parlor trick. But yeah, it was interesting yesterday doing all the resets. I think that one of the things that I regularly do, if I was to talk about my approach, is the reset thing. So yesterday was resets, really, and I'm kind of doing it with this one as well. You can see there are things that are happening there, but there were I did sort of a few of these. In fact, I didn't put them all up, but there was quite a few of these, and you can see things like I'm trying to get away from the need for it to be perfect and the need for it to be exact. So, because the exactness and perfection drives you in a different direction, execution, things like that. So the reset for me is a real good thing. So it's not time orientated, it's none of that sort of stuff. It's response orientated. So what you're looking for is to open the channels for response. That's what you're looking for. So it doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. You have to tune into your responsive side. I think that's what it is. I would say it's probably less thought involved, because that's probably the way. I think once you start thinking about it, then you're going to get your responsive approach is going to die a little bit. It's going to be thought, but it's all kinds of things. It's being present to the what's occurring. I think it's also one of the big things, I suppose, is equipment side of it. Is the tools you're using. I'm not really tools orientated, but I was explaining this morning to someone about the charcoal requirements, and it seemed by the time I finished explaining that it's quite a condition, a criteria that I'm asking. This thing about marks with no effort. I mean, the first thing is flow, and I don't mean flow in terms of it's kind of like an ink flow thing. So it has to continually produce a flow. It doesn't have to go break, juddy. And that's something that I have to have from the charcoal. So there's that criteria. Then there's the continuous. Then there's the marks with no effort. That's another criteria. Then there's the end-to-end tone. So it has to make dark tones, light tones, and just in one piece. And then when you blend it, I don't want to see grain. I want it to be nice and flat like a wash. So it's quite a list of requirements. And but that in itself is part of this reset thing, because one of the problems is that if you have to think about the marks that you're making, you have to press harder or whatever because you want it to be a certain density, then you're thinking about it, and it's not a response. It's not just flowing from you; it's actually going through your brain and then being processed and then being assessed and judged as to whether or not it's dark enough or whatever. Whereas if it's just a response, then there's no consideration for what the thing's doing. It's going to be a much purer thing, which is what you see in that. And as I say, back to the present thing, because that there isn't finished, it doesn't matter. Isn't blended or like on this one. There are things on there that, this sort of thing that aren't technically blended or whatever, but I don't care because it still looks tonally right. The same with other things. So there's that element. Same with the mouth. It's not a specifically drawn mouth. There's no edges to it. So there's that element to it as well. There's the kind of the being present, the marks are doing the job, sort of feeling about it, but also there's no requirement for the marks or the tones or whatever it is that I'm applying to meet a criteria based on an outcome. That's the thing. So one of the most important things about the resets are that I have no expectation of outcome. It's just its purpose is the doing. The purpose is as I'm doing this, I'm getting the value from that, and they're getting the as I said, the resetting of my approach, my creativity in a way. So like I say, it was good. It was good. I think I did eight of them in the day. I mean, some of them are crap. Some of them I won't even show you, But that's having talking about no expectations and then saying that. I don't mean crap in the way that you might think that they don't look great. I mean in the terms of I didn't connect. I didn't have the flow or the true response. It was just verging on something that looked like a portrait, that kind of thing. Looked too contrived and too thought about. That's what I mean by crap. You may have looked at them and thought they're great. Some of the misfires that have the same criteria, they didn't. I didn't connect and everything else. People have said, "No, I wish I could do that." Yeah, but you don't want to do that. You want to do something much more alive and visceral. That's where you want to be with it. But as I said, it kind of goes against the whole drawing thing. And as I said yesterday with the John Carrasco thing, how it, like, looking at what people have done sort of step by step, and looking at the way I've done it and thinking how anti drawing my approach seems to be. But then again, as I said before, when I look at or read Robert Henry or watch John, what's his name, Ingebrigtsen, listen to what he says, and there's all of that. I agree with every word he comes out with, So it's not like I'm anti-drawing. I'm anti contrivance of drawing, or whatever you want to call it. That step-by-step guide kind of thing. None of that. All of that for me is just painted by numbers. You might as well put numbers on the paper and just fill it in. So that's probably what I mean by anti-drawing. That I'm not going to try and follow a method or a technique for getting the nose in the right place, which is crazy because I talk about this, position of things all the time. And we said this morning, because Harrison's like, he doesn't have much contact with other than, he goes to shows and things, but then he's not really that kind of artist anyway. But we sort of come to the conclusion, well, it's obvious. Surely it's obvious, And like you were saying, well, it's not really, is it? Because most people don't get it. When I say, oh, it's the distance from there to there that we're interested in, or it's the distance from there to there that we're interested in. So all this comparative stuff, that why would you want to mechanically understand things? Because you can see there's a distance from there to there all the time. You're comparing these things, and it's simple. It's simple. When you're looking at the tilt of the head, for instance, and you're looking at that, how far is that off from there to there? How far is that diagonal, that tilt, from horizontal? How far it is from, we're taking that as a top point. There's a horizontal. You can see there's a distance there. So it's easy. Honestly, it's easy. Why make it complicated? Why try and use geometry or whatever else you want to use to explain how to get the angle of the nose? And at the end of the day, your response is driving all this, and whether that nose is actually in the right place or not. And I've said this many times. Look at some great artists. There are Picasso's that are made, portraits that are made, or Van Gogh's portraits that are amazing, and you wouldn't recognize them as a person, but they're amazing portraits. So it's not always about this sort of perfect replication of something. But again, that's the psychology side of things. To a lot of people, it's exactly that. It is exactly. It's the comments that I get. It's like, the smile's not quite right and all the rest of it. But like this, you can see there's an essence to this. You can feel that vibration of that face. Just because I'm just responding to the face, I'm not considering how I'm drawing it, and I'm, as you can see, meandering all over the place, and I'm fiddling with the tones when I shouldn't be, and all that. But that's because it's responsive. I'm not. There is no process to this. There is no step by step to this. It just happens as I meander all over the face, as I say. But anyway, so that's it. I just, on a Sunday morning and drawing and rambling, what better way to spend a Sunday morning, especially when the sun shines, which in Yorkshire is quite frequent, despite what people might say. But it's been a bit of a rarity in the last few months. Although we walked in the woods this morning, and you won't believe how everything's grown. There's apple blossom and blackthorn blossom. Now blackthorn, I used to I've got some this morning actually, some blackthorn. I used to make hawthorn, make charcoal with blackthorn, and there's a hawthorn and blackthorn, and one of them flowers first, and the other one makes leaves first. And that's how you tell the difference between the two. And it's blackthorn this morning, which is in full blossom. But the trouble is, it stinks. It stinks like cat pee, and it's not good. So you can't really, we got some apple blossom this morning, and some lilac, and which again is something else that's in full flourish, to bring into the house and the studio and things. And Jackson likes it in his studio. My other son, who's also a painter, and it's just all the wet weather we had. It's been absolutely bucketing down for the last few weeks, and but mild and warm, so consequently things grow, which is great, and yeah. Like I say, what the wonderful thing about this is that, especially I've said before, if you want to learn to draw portraits and learn quickly, draw old men, old beardy old men. Like plants or flowers, they're dead easy to draw because you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong with it. So, but if you want to rapidly grow in terms of portraits, draw beardy old men, which is what I say, which is the staple for most portrait artists anyway. It's and it's rewarding. It's quickly rewarding. The thing about drawing, I think, is that um, quick wins, if that's what you want to call it, are good for your psyche. And um, so if you do, the more you do, the more confident you can be and all the rest of it. But be careful, don't do too many. So we were talking about. We looked at. I took a picture of there's lots of silver birch in the wood where I walk, and so we took a picture of this perfect, the perfect silver birch. Well, there's 3 of them stood together, and it was a wonderful shot. And I said to my son, I've got no intention, no desire to paint a landscape. And that's it. We were talking about this want and desire thing. Why would you paint? And I said, well, no desire. I said I could draw trees all day long. I could draw landscapes all day long. I could draw any urban landscapes all day long. I have no problem with it. I can draw anything, but I don't want to draw anything. I want to draw faces. So don't ask me why. But we said that's probably one of the most important things as an artist. Do what you want. You can't make yourself. And I, as an illustrator all those years, not full time, but doing the odd jobs that we couldn't find illustrators to do, I hated it. I hated doing something that somebody else had. And the best thing about it was I was the art director as well as the illustrator, and I was doing it to my brief, which is how mad is that? But I just hated when we had a message to convey in the whatever it was, brochure or advert or whatever, and I hated it because I wasn't just responding to them. I had a dedicated job to do this, to tell people, to show this, whatever. So it wasn't what I wanted to do, and that's what we're saying. The artists have to want to do it. Not just because they want to show off, not because they want to compete, not because they want to, be better than somebody else or whatever, or get paid. They've got to just want to do it, and that, I suppose, that's at the crux of what I do. I just want to do it, and it's a purely selfish thing. That's all it is. It's just a selfish thing. I mean, the fact that I don't do anything with them is another kind of indicator, I suppose, that they don't go anywhere. The drawings are just in folders, but that's not the point. I'm addicted to doing it. I'm not addicted to the outcome as such. So I'm not bothered. I wouldn't like to exhibit, really. Why would I want to exhibit what I'm doing? People do. I know people exhibit the charcoals. I think faces are a funny thing anyway. Who buys a face of somebody else to put on the wall? Who does that? It's only the person that's in the subject that would want this image. So, as I said, it's a strange thing, but I just like drawing faces. I think it works with my psychology. This thing about I like people, and I like talking to people, and I like chatting and just connecting with people and knowing their story and all that kind of thing. I'm interested in all that kind of thing, and so this is probably a manifestation of that because I can tap into that. Apart from sorting the eyes, I mean, in terms of just putting a little bit of a highlight in there, I think this is done. But this is what I like about it. This is probably what I would talk about and I was talking about doing the resets tomorrow. This is probably a reset, and it has that feeling of life and light and all the rest of it. But what just talking about technical stuff, what I like about, and nearly all my subjects are like this anyway, is the contrast thing. How you can create the intense feeling of light on the side of his face. I mean, it really, if you, I'll do it now on this side of here because this is sort of in shade. I'm going to leave it like that. But here is lots of light coming down on there. Look at that. It's amazing. Regardless of how accurate it is or how well I've done, there's a general shape of things there. But look how that lifts everything. But that's what I like. I like the revelation, the surprise. I like the fact that I can surprise myself. So I suppose again, it's back to pleasing myself. You know, I have simple requirements. I just, you know, making a few lines like that, and I'm excited about doing it. What's that? How sad is that? Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that line on your nose there. It's a bit too obvious. And put some charcoal back on it. It's the right piece. The trouble is, I've got loads of charcoal on the side of me, you know, in readiness, you know, sort of backup pieces, just in case this sort of decides to throw a wobbler. And I always chuck it down when I stop. I don't put it down. I just throw it down. So it's mixed in with all the others. And if it's the same piece I'm trying to use all the way through the drawing, then it's a bit difficult to find the one I was using before, when all of them look a little bit similar. You know, they all look a bit like that, you see. They all look, I mean, obviously that's a bit longer, but you can see they're all like that. And I can't remember which piece I was using, so I just throw it down. So which is again an indication of my tool or technique. Reliance, because that's what it is. You know, I see that saw something the other day with a thing at the side of them, and it got like different tools lined up. Very impressive, very impressive. His work's no good, but he had an amazing set of tools. When I was at in Brighouse, I was at the when I was, and you know, before I finished, I was in the Brighouse Art Circle, and there was a guy there who was a millionaire, and he bought every tool there was to help him draw. None of it worked, you know, but he's got a fishing tackle kind of jacket full of all the brushes and the pencils and the rubbers and whatever else he'd got in there to fill the pockets, you know. It was a desperate attempt to actually create something worthy. But sometimes tools do matter. I talk about this, but only to a certain degree. You know, believing that you buy a load of stuff and it'll make you a great artist. That's not. It's like getting the other guys with the big lenses on the cameras. Oh, you make him a great photographer. But no, there's much more to it than that, mate. So yeah, it's for me, it's a bit of a secondary factor. And if I had to just work with charcoal, I wouldn't like to work with the kind of crap stuff that, you know, that brownie stuff or the ones. I wouldn't like to have to work with it all the time, because now I know there's better stuff out there. You know, there's better stuff that I can make. I'd be missing out. I'd be missing out on my potential because I was held back by the equipment. You know, but yeah. So as I said, I'm done with this. Interesting character. Right. Just a ramble and a Sunday morning sketch. I don't know if I'm doing anything later. I might do. I think I've got to cut the hedges, so maybe not. But if not, I'll catch you in the next one, probably tomorrow. We're doing a lesson tomorrow, so I might do a prep in the morning for the lesson. See what happens. I'll probably spend all day looking for references. That's the problem. And I'm always thinking I'm going to find a better one. You know what I mean? I found a great image once upon a time when it was scarce. You didn't have pixels and Unsplash and all the rest of them. But now there's just so many that, you know, I'm always thinking I'm going to find a better one. So, and invariably I do, but I also eliminate some great ones at the same time, which is a problem. I should be using those as well. So I end up with a hard drive full of images that are perfectly usable, but I don't use them because I think I'm going to find a better one. So that's, and then when I get into the rhythm of looking, I can't stop. And if anybody's looked for conkers, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you take your kids to look for conkers or horse chestnuts, as people call them. You get fixated on finding these things under all the dead leaves, and you just can't stop. And every time you walk anywhere, you're looking down, looking for one of these shiny jewels, you know, of chestnut. And yeah, it's a bit like that when I'm looking for. I'm just doing the same thing with the charcoal. It's a bit like that when I'm looking for references. especially when I've got no criteria as such. As I said yesterday, the way that I look for references is to look for people doing things, because I think I figured out early on that when a person's engaged in something, whether it be works, social event, or whatever, they have a different, their face changes. So looking for people engaged within an activity is probably the trick to finding the right kind of images. Although this guy's not engaged in anything, but you know, this is the beardy old man effect, the crusty old man effect, that you can get away with anything with it. It's got a crusty old beard and a sort of a glint in their eye. You kind of, you know, that's subject enough. But if you're looking for something that's a bit more challenging, if you like, then looking for people who are engaged in something in life in some way is always a good place to start. So I start with that, you know, people at a bar, people at a party, people by the pool, people by the docks, all that kind of thing. Fishermen, everything that might entail people being engaged. And so you can imagine how many references you get back, just inundated. So so that's what I'll do. Tomorrow I'll be spending, and the other side of it is that I try to mix up the type of references we use, just to make it a little bit more interesting and a bit more challenging. But I've got one student who, bear in mind, I do this with them 3 times a week, so that's, you know, quite a challenge, if you like, if you're working. But he also wants me to send this. I'll do this today, and he'll ask for the reference for this as well. So the guy's like, it's more prolific than me. He does more drawings than I do, and then he goes to class as well. So it's incredible. But I think he's got my addictive bug. You know, he's got the same thing. It has become an addiction for him as well. But you know, he goes on holiday and then he apologizes why he's not been drawing, you know, and all that. So it's weird. It's weird. It's like, I don't care, mate. You know, you just do it when you want. And yeah. Which is nice. I think that's nice. I mean, he's kind of learned to be connected to his creativity and he lets it flow, and you know, it's really good. But anyway, as I say, this is done. Apart from he's a bit cross-eyed with that. It's not cross-eyed, but it's because I'm not. If you're going to put something like that identifies that side of his eye, there has to be something there that then make sure it doesn't look like it's cross-eyed. So, and there's a density issue. It's kind of leveled out there, but there's a density issue there as well. So that has to be resolved. That's a downside of probably working on paper that has no surface as such. If you're not careful, you get a concentration like that. You see, which is fine when you get to things like this, and this, you know, this can be knocked back a bit there, but that is too dark. You can see how that sort of protrudes, and so as I say, I'll fix things like that. But there'll come a point when I think, I've caught the face anyway. Why do I bother? Why do I go further with this? There's no need. Yeah, I think the other thing that's forcing it to look a little bit cross-eyed is that bit. Look at that, change it straight away. It's mad, isn't it? Absolutely mad. I've not made any attempt to draw it, but I just did that, and all of a sudden the eye looks right. Crazy. Right, I love you, leave you, because as I say, I'm just rambling, and yeah, I like that.